This way.
What are you doing? We need to get out of Helgan.
These Imperials have potions in here. We're going to need them. An old story. See if we can find some potions. Might come in handy.
Valkyries to Dawnstar, A Survivor's Guide to Skyrim, by Varric Gareford, explorer, pioneer, and minor adventurer. Penned with the assistance of Carius Harmavius on this day, 16th of Frostfall, 4E, 111. 118, I mean. It has been said that Skyrim itself is more dangerous than any man, mer, giant, or saber-cat within her borders. Any who have felt the biting chill of the Pale or seen the frozen corpses upon the steps of High Hrothgar can attest to this. It takes the souls of the foolhardy, brave, astute, and unprepared with equal enthusiastic swiftness. My aim is to provide you with guidance on surviving the trials of Skyrim's harshest regions. My hope is that you, dear reader, will avoid the fate of those mentioned above. Wisdom is your only weapon against the cold, so arm yourself with it on the following pages. Even with this knowledge, however, I cannot guarantee your safety. One can only be prepared if such a guarantee was made by the merchant who sold you this book. You have my sincerest apologies. Now, without further deviation, let us discuss the subject at hand. The cold road ahead. Cold is the enemy. It is dangerous. It is as dangerous as a seasoned fighter with a honed blade and a score to settle. It is an insidious enemy, seeping into your bones, your mind, robbing you of the very will to survive. But like any enemy, it can be defended against. You must adapt to it to defeat it. If cold is an agent of death, fire is life. A fire gives many gifts, chief of which are warmth and dry skin. The act of building a campfire should become second nature to you, as routine as putting on your boots. Building campfires early and often, and seek out wood far in advance when you think you'll need it. It may take several hours to find enough wood to build a campfire of a useful size. If caught in a blizzard or after having fallen in a frozen lake, that's several hours you do not have to spare. Carry some quantity of tinder in your pack for emergencies. Some straw or cotton will do fine. Fire is a friend, but a hungry one. When preparing to travel, the first thing to address is your attire. Wearing warm clothing from head to toe is the single most important thing you can do to ensure your survival. Each part of your body that you leave exposed makes it increasingly difficult to stay warm and dry. You may think yourself safe in the southern hold, but getting soaked in a rainstorm can easily sap the heat from your body. There are many ways to improve your resistance to exposure. Your body will grow more accustomed to Skyrim's climate in time. It will happen slowly and naturally, and only for those who live long enough to discover that the change has taken place. The torch can be very beneficial, warming the arms and face. A cloak can act as another helpful barrier against the frost and rain. Soups can warm from the inside out. Finally, trinkets which grant a magical resistance to frost or provide aid to their wearers. There is no single way to prepare for a cold journey, but all of these things together will help keep you on this side of the eternal. Surviving frozen waters. Sometimes, even after having done one's best to be careful near Skyrim's treacherous, frigid bodies of water, disaster can strike. A loose rock results in lost footing, or a fragile plate of ice on a frozen lake goes unnoticed. Suddenly, you are submerged, head to toe in water only barely above freezing. The body will go through a series of responses that may be shocking to the uninitiated, but by reviewing what will happen should this occur, one can mentally prepare for the occasion. With a strong will and some luck, one may even live to tell about it. First, your body will involuntarily gasp deeply for air. When this happens, you will feel paradoxically as if the wind has been knocked out of you, unable to catch your breath. You will feel completely without energy, and your eyes may have trouble focusing. Next, assuming you have not breathed in a lungful of freezing water, you should have regained enough of your senses to be able to find a way back to shore. This is a narrow window of opportunity. Do not waste it. After getting out of the water, it is imperative that you make camp or retreat to the nearest warm shelter immediately, as your body has already become dangerously cold. Many have saved themselves from a watery death only to die on land minutes later. If for some reason you are unable to bring yourself to shore quickly enough, you will find your limbs difficult to move until they become so numb that they stop responding entirely. Drowning at this point is the most likely outcome. Gear for the journey. The right skills, a positive mindset, a few supplies. With each of these things you bring with you, you improve your chance of overcoming any obstacle you may face. While on the trail, it all starts with a simple axe. A woodcutter's axe is by far the most essential tool you can carry. With it, you can gather larger logs from nearby fallen trees quickly and easily. Keep it sharp. If an axe is unavailable, a crude stone hatchet can be assembled. Find a suitable branch and tie or hammer a nearby stone to it. This tool will take much longer to use than a proper axe, but it will get the job done. While the most obvious use of wood you harvest is for building a crackling fire, there are other useful supplies that can be created with a few spare pieces you may have left. A bow for hunting game, a simple walking stick, a rack for tanning leather. With a tent you can outlast freezing rain and blizzards in the open country. A campfire is of limited usefulness when you remain exposed to the elements. When traveling in the southern holds, where the air is warmer and rain comes frequently, a leather tent will keep you dry while blocking the mild night chill. If venturing out to the north, a tent made of animal hides is more suitable. These tents trap heat much more effectively, but are prone to leaking in rainstorms. If caught in a rainstorm with no tent available, take shelter under the nearest suitable structure and wait for it to pass. A small cooking pot made of steel can help you cook hot meals while you're on the road, far from the nearest hearth. Finally, a properly constructed backpack can do wonders for helping you haul your belongings over vast distances without straining your neck and back. A good backpack should have space for storing everything you need, with some room to spare. Food and brew. Not all foods are created equal. Some are much better suited for helping the body cope with traveling in the cold. In general, hot soups, stews, and broths should be consumed when traveling long distances across cold terrain. They provide warmth from within, which helps prevent the loss of warmth from without. Snowberries, a common sight in the northern holds, have also been rumored to aid in fending off the cold. Travelers of the northern lands swear by them, even though there is no alchemical proof one way or the other. Whether these small fruits actually provide a real boon or it's just a trick of the mind, I leave the reader to decide. A special note about every Nord's favorite topic, brew. While one may be quick to believe that ale and mead bring fire to the belly, many who turn to stiff drinks in order to avoid the icy death only hasten it in the end. That being said, mental and physical toughness play an equal role in your survival. A quick swig of ale might be exactly what you need to give you the determination to make the last push to safety. This is a choice you will have to make for yourself when the time comes. Skyrim and its environs. Skyrim is a nation divided into territories known as holds. Each hold has unique environmental characteristics that aid or hinder those that travel through them. They are presented here in order to of increasing harshness and unpredictability. Falkreath Hold. The area surrounding Falkreath is a temperate evergreen forest with relative warmth and refreshing waters. Days are comfortable even at sunset, and nights are mild enough that one want to go stargazing when the sky is clear. This hold is truly the most hospitable of all of Skyrim. Eastmarch. While Eastmarch is cooler than Falkreath due to being farther north, this hold is lined with volcanic fissures that discharge great plumes of hot steam that keep the area warm enough to occupy without pause day or night year-round. The Rift. This hold is home to a sprawling broadleaf mixed forest in Skyrim's southeast. Though it is positioned on Skyrim's southern border, its elevation, tree canopy, and humidity make this area much cooler than it may first appear. While a clear day in the Rift is almost as nice as Falkreath, the rain with high winds can sap a warrior's strength faster than she cares to admit. The Rift's many streams and lakes are pleasurable to swim in on sunny days. The Reach. The hold of Markarth sits along Skyrim's western border and is identified by a great river that runs through a deep sheer valley. The wind that rolls off the western mountains and into the valley are chilly most of the day. The night air combined with the cold showers may prompt the wise travelers to build a campfire or seek shelter. The reach's waters are quite cold, but should not pose a threat if one is diligent enough to dry off once the affair is over with. White Rimhold. The heart of Skyrim is a cold thunderbolt dotted by what few trees can manage to take root through the permafrost. Farmers toil tirelessly here to break ground and grow what little they can in the inches of soil afforded them. Foreigners may find this area to be uncomfortably cold during the day, nothing a sturdy pair of boots and gloves can't remedy. At night, the high winds across the open plains cut through fabric and flesh. It never snows in Whiterun, contrary to its name, but the ground remains cold enough to freeze rain the moment it strikes the earth. Whiterun's chilly brooks are usually shallow enough to not worry of becoming completely drenched. Hallmarch. The tundra marshlands of Hallmarch are inhospitable to the unprepared. The ground is almost entirely permafrost, and the northern bogs have waters that remain at or below the freezing point. Set up camp early and do not stray far from it. If night or dark clouds approach, build or seek shelter at once. Never attempt to swim in the waters here. Always find a land bridge or a way around the Pale and mountains. The frozen wastes of the Pale are life-threatening even under the best of circumstances. Make camp often. Avoid nightfall outdoors. If a blizzard strikes, you are in a grave danger and your survival is measured in minutes. Seek shelter immediately. Better to be a living cave rat than a dead hero. The sheer winds and breath-freezing air of the mountains will push your endurance to its limits and beyond. Needless to say, the Sea of Ghosts lives up to its name. The same goes for the icy rivers that run east and south to Windhelm. Magic. It is reasonable to believe that keeping oneself warm with fire spells should be easy, since spells of flame are amongst the first any student of the Destruction School learns. Be warned, turning spells against oneself is incredibly dangerous, and is best left avoided. Direct your flames towards your campfire instead. There are known to be certain spells that can help fend off the cold, conjure shelters from thin air, and even reduce exposure directly. Seek out a mage to learn more of, as such topics are beyond the scope of this book. Conclusion. If you have made it to this far, congratulations. You are now much more prepared for the cold road ahead. I hope you have found my instructions enlightening. Although this author hopes that you never need this book, I advise you to take it on your travels so you may consult it whenever such a need arises. Stay warm, stay dry, stay alert. Gathering the potions.
This way.
You fellows happened along just in time. These boys seemed a bit upset at how I've been entertaining their comrades.
Don't you even know what's going on? A dragon is attacking Helgan.
A dragon?
Worry about yourself.
Nonsense. I did hear some odd noises coming from over there.
Put that down. Come with us. We need to get out of here.
You have no other... authority over me, boy.
Didn't you hear me? I said to keep us under attack.
Forget the old man. I'll come with you.
Wait a second. Looks like there's something in this cage.
Don't bother with that. Lost the key ages ago. Poor fellow's praying for peace.
See if you can get it open with some picks. We need everything we can get.
Sure. Take all my things. Please.
Grab what you can and let's go.
A Brief History of the Empire Part 1 by Stronach K. Thurgill III, Imperial Historian. Before the rule of Tiber Septim, all Tamriel was in chaos. The poet Tresagus called that period of continuous unrest days and nights of blood and venom. The kings were a petty lot of grasping tyrants who fought Tiber's attempt to bring order to the land. But they were as disorganized as they were just dissolute, and the strong hand of Septim brought peace forcibly to Tamriel. The year was 2E 896. The following year, the emperor declared the beginning of a new era. Thus began the third era, year Aught. For 38 years, the Emperor Tiber reigned supreme. It was a lawful, pious, and glorious age when justice was known to one and all, from serf to sovereign. On Tiber's death, it reigned for an entire fortnight, as if the land of Tamriel itself was weeping. The emperor's grandson, Pelagius, came to the throne. Though his reign was short, he was as strong and resolute as his father had been, and Tamriel could have enjoyed a continuation of the Golden Age. Alas, an unknown enemy of the Septim family hired that accursed organization of cutthroats, the Dark Brotherhood, to kill the Emperor Pelagius I, as he knelt in prayer at the Temple of the One in the Imperial City. Pelagius I's reign lasted less than 3 years. Pelagius had no living children, so the crown imperial passed to his first cousin, the daughter of Tiber's brother, Agnorith Kintyra, former queen of Silvanar, assumed the throne as Kintyra I. Her reign was blessed with prosperity and good harvests, and she herself was an avid patroness of art, music, and dance. Kintyra's son was crowned after her death. the first Emperor of Tamriel to use the imperial name Uriel. Uriel I was the great lawmaker of the Septim dynasty and a promoter of independent organizations and guilds. Under his kind but firm hand, the Fighters Guild and the Mages Guild increased in prominence throughout Tamriel. His son and successor Uriel II reigned for 18 years from the death of Uriel I in 3E64 to Pelagius II's ascension in 3E82. Tragically, the rule of Uriel II was cursed with blights, plagues, and insurrections. The tenderness he inherited from his father did not serve Tamriel well, and little justice was done. Pelagius II inherited not only the throne from his fathers, but the debt from the latter's poor financial and judicial management. Pelagius dismissed all of the elder council and allowed only those willing to pay great sums to resume their seats. He encouraged similar acts among his vassals, the kings of Tamriel, and by the end of his 17th year of reign, Tamriel had returned to prosperity. His critics, however, have suggested that any advisors possessed of wisdom but not of gold had been summarily ousted by Pelagius. This may have led to some of the troubles his son Antiochus faced when he in turn became emperor. Antiochus was certainly one of the more flamboyant members of the usually austere Septim family. He had numerous mistresses and nearly as many wives, and was renowned for the grandeur of his dress and his high good humor. Unfortunately, his reign was rife with civil war, surpassing that even that of his grandfather Uriel II. The War of the Isle in 3E110, 12 years after Antiochus assumed the throne, nearly took the province of Somerset Isle away from Tamriel. The united alliance of the kings of Somerset and Antiochus only managed to defeat King Ogrum of the island kingdom of Pyandania due to a freak storm. Legend credits the Stygic Order of the Isle of Antium with the sorcery behind the tempest. The story of Kintyres II, heiress to her father Antiochus' throne, is certainly one of the saddest tales in the imperial history. Her first cousin Uriel, son of Queen Fatima of Solitude, accused Kintyre of being a bastard, alluding to the infamous decadence of the imperial city during her father's reign. When this accusation failed to stop her coronation, Uriel brought the support of several disgruntled kings of High Rock, Skyrim, and Morrowind, and with Queen Fatima's assistance, he coordinated 3 attacks on the Septim Empire. The first attack occurred in the Ilic Bay region, which separates High Rock and Hammerfell. Kintyre's entourage was massacred and the empress taken captive. For 2 years, Kintyre II languished in an imperial prison believed to be somewhere in Glen Point or Glenmorrel, before she was slain in her cell under mysterious circumstances. The second attack was on a series of imperial garrisons along the coast of Morrowind Islands. The empress consort Contin Anix fell defending the forts. The third and final attack was the siege of the imperial city itself, occurring after the Elder Council had split up the army to attack western High Rock and eastern Morrowind. The weakened government had little defense against Uriel's determined aggression and capitulated only after a fortnight of resistance. Uriel took the throne that same evening and proclaimed himself Uriel III, Emperor of Tamriel. The year was 3E121. Thus began the War of the Red Diamond, described in Volume 2 of this series. A Brief History of the Empire Part 2. Volume 1 of this series described in brief the lives of the first 8 emperors of the Septim dynasty, beginning with the glorious Tiber Septim and ending with his great-great-great-grandniece, Kintyre II. Kintyre's murder in Glen Point, while in captivity, is considered by some to be the end of the pure strain of Septim blood in the imperial family. Certainly it marks the end of something significant. Uriel III not only proclaimed himself Emperor of Tamriel, but also Uriel Septim III, taking the eminent surname as a title. In truth, his surname was Manticaro from his father's line. In time, Uriel III was disposed and his crimes reviled, and the tradition of taking the name Septim as the title for the Emperor of Tamriel did not die with him. For 6 years, the War of the Red Diamond, which takes its name from the Septim family's famous badge, tore the empire apart. The combatants were the 3 surviving children of Pelagius II, Fatima, Sepphoris, and Magnus, and their various offspring. Fatima, of course, supported her son Uriel III, and had the combined support of all of Skyrim and Northern Morrowind. With the efforts of Sepphoris and Magnus, however, the province of High Rock turned cold. The province of Hammerfell, Somerset Isle, Valenwood, Elsewhere, and Blackmarsh were divided in their loyalty, but most kings supported Sepphoris and Magnus. In 3E127, Uriel III was captured at the Battle of Ichidag in Hammerfell. En route to his trial in the Imperial City, a mob overtook his prisoner's carriage and burned him alive within it. His captor and uncle continued on to the Imperial City, and by common acclaim proclaimed himself Sepphoris I, Emperor of Tamriel. Sepphoris' reign was marked by nothing but war. By all accounts, he was a kind and intelligent man, but what Tamriel needed was a great warrior, and he, fortunately, was that. It took an additional 10 years of constant warfare for him to defeat his sister Fatima, so-called Wolf Queen of Solitude, who died in the siege of her city-state in the year 137. Sepphoris survived his sister by only 3 years. He never had time during the war years to marry, so it was his brother, the 4th child of Pelagius II, who assumed the throne. The Emperor Magnus was already elderly when he took up the imperial diadem, and the business of punishing the traitorous kings of the War of the Diamond drained much of his remaining strength. Legend accuses Magnus' son and heir, Pelagius III, of patricide, but seems highly unlikely for no other reason that Pelagius was king of Solitude following the death of Fatima and seldom visited the imperial city. Pelagius III, sometimes called Pelagius the Mad, was proclaimed emperor in the 145th year of the Third Era. Almost from the start, his eccentricities of behavior were noted at court. He embarrassed dignitaries, offended his vassal kings, and on one occasion marked the end of an imperial grand ball by attempting to hang himself. His long-suffering wife was finally awarded the regency of Tamriel, and Pelagius III was sent to a series of healing institutions and asylums until his death in 3E153 at the age of 34. The Empress Regent of Tamriel was proclaimed Empress Kataraya I upon the death of her husband. Some who do not mark the end of the Septim bloodline with the death of Kintira II considered the ascendancy of this dark elf woman the true mark of its decline. Her defenders, on the other hand, asserted that though Kataraya was not descended from Tiber, the son she had with Pelagius was. So the imperial chain did continue. Despite racist assertions to the contrary, Kataraya's 46-year reign was one of the most celebrated in Tamriel's history. Uncomfortable in the imperial city, Kataraya traveled extensively throughout the empire, such as no emperor ever had since Tiber's day. She repaired much of the damage that previous emperors' broken alliances and bungled diplomacy created. The people of Tamriel came to love their empress far more than the nobility did. Kataraya's death in a minor skirmish in Black March is a favorite subject of conspiracy-minded historians. The sage Montanus discovered that, for instance, of a disenfranchised branch of the Septim family, and their involvement with the skirmish was a revelation indeed. When Cassiander assumed the throne upon the death of his mother, he was already middle-aged, only half-elven. He aged like a Breton. In fact, he had left the rule of Wayrest to his half-brother, Uriel, due to poor health. Nevertheless, as the only true blood relation to Pelagius, and thus Tiber, he was pressed into accepting the throne. To no one's surprise, the Emperor Cassander's reign did not last long. In 2 years, he joined his predecessors in eternal slumber. Uriel Lariat, Cassander's half-brother and the child of Kataraya I and her imperial consort Galaver Lariat, after the death of Pelagius III, left the kingdom of Wayrest to reign as Uriel IV. Legally, Uriel IV was a septim. Cassander had adopted him into the royal family when he had become king of Wayrest. Nevertheless, to the council and the people of Tamriel, he was a bastard child of Kataraya. Uriel did not possess the dynamism of his mother, and his long 43-year reign was a hotbed of sedation. Uriel IV's story is told in the 3rd volume of this series. Book of the Dragonborn by Prior Emmeline Madrin, Order of Talos, Waynon Priory, the year 360 of the Third Era, 21st of the reign of His Majesty Pelagius IV. Many people have heard the term Dragonborn. We are, of course, ruled by the Dragonborn Emperors, but the true meaning of the term is not commonly understood. For those of us in the Order of Talos, this is a subject near and dear to our hearts, and in this book I will attempt to illuminate the history and significance of those known as Dragonborn. Down through the ages, most scholars agree that the term was first used in connection with the Covenant of Akatosh, when the Blessed Saint Alicia was given the Amulet of Kings and the dragon fires in the Temple of the One were first lit. Akatosh looked with pity on the plight of men, drew precious blood from his own heart, and blessed Saint Alicia with this blood of dragons, and made a covenant that so long as Alicia's generations were true to the dragon blood, Akatosh would endeavor to seal tight the gates of oblivion and to deny the armies of Daedra and undead to their enemies, the Daedra-loving Aelids. Those blessed by Akatosh with the dragon blood became known simply as Dragonborn. The connection with the rulers of the Empire was thus there from the beginning. Only those of the dragon blood were able to wear the Amulet of Kings and light the dragon fires. All the legitimate rulers of the Empire have been Dragonborn. The emperors and empresses of the First Cyrodiilic Empire, founded by Alessa, Reman, Cyrodiil and his heirs, and of course Tiber Septim and his heirs, down to our current emperor, His Majesty Pelagius Septim IV. Because of this connection with the emperors, however, the other significance of the Dragonborn has been obscured and largely forgotten by all but scholars and those of us dedicated to the service of the Blessed Talos. Who was Tiber Septim? Very few realize that being Dragonborn is not a simple matter of heredity. Being the blessing of Akatosh himself, it is beyond our understanding exactly how and why it is bestowed. Those who become emperor and light the dragon fires are surely Dragonborn. The proof is in the wearing of the amulet and the lighting of the fires. But were they Dragonborn and thus able to do these things, or was the doing of the sign of the blessing of Akatosh descending upon them? All that we can say is that it is both and neither, a divine mystery. The line of Septims have all been Dragonborn, of course, which is one reason the simplistic notion of it being hereditary has become so commonplace. But we know for certain that the early Cyrodiilic rulers were not all related. There is also no evidence that Reman Cyrodiil was descended from Elysia, although there are many legends that would make it so, most of them dating from the time of Reman and likely attempts to legitimize his rule. We know that the Blades, usually thought of as the Emperor's bodyguards, originated in Akavari crusaders who invaded Tamriel for obscure reasons in the late First Era. They appear to have been searching for a Dragonborn. The event at Pale Pass bear this out, and the Akavari were the first to proclaim Reman Cyrodiil as Dragonborn. In fact, it was the Akavari who did the most to promote his standing as Emperor, although Reman himself never took that title in his lifetime. And of course there is no known hereditary connection between Tiber Septim and any of the previous Dragonborn rulers of Tamriel. Whether there can be more than one Dragonborn at any time is another mystery. The emperors have done their best to dismiss this notion, but of course the imperial succession itself means that at the very least there are two or more potential Dragonborn at any time, the current ruler and his or her heirs. The history of the Blades also hints at this, although little is known of their activities during the interregnum between Reman's emperor and the rise of Tiber Septim. Many believe that the Blades continued to search out and guard those they believe were or might be Dragonborn during this time. Lastly, we come to the question of the true meaning of being Dragonborn. The connection with dragons is so obvious that it has almost been forgotten. In these days when dragons are a distant memory, we forget that in the early days, being Dragonborn meant having the dragon blood. Some scholars believe that this was meant quite literally, although the exact significance is not known. The Nords tell tales of Dragonborn heroes who were great dragon slayers, able to steal the power of the dragons they killed. Indeed, it is well known that the Akavari sought out and killed many dragons during their invasion, and there is some evidence that this continued after they became Reman Cyrodiil's Dragon Guard. Again, the connection to dragons, the direct predecessor to the Blades of today. I leave you with what is known as the prophecy of the Dragonborn. It often said to originate in an Elder Scroll, although it is sometimes also attributed to the ancient Akavari. Many have attempted to decipher it, and many have also believed that its omens have been fulfilled, and that the advent of the last Dragonborn was at hand. I make no claims as an interpreter of prophecy, but it does suggest that the true significance of Akatosh's gift to immortal kind has yet to be fully understood. When misrule takes its place at the eight corners of the world, when the brass tower walks and time is reshaped, when the thrice blessed fail and the red tower trembles, when the Dragonborn ruler loses his throne and the white tower falls, when the snow tower lies thundered, kingless, bleeding, the world eater wakes and the wheel turns upon the last Dragonborn. Hey, I was reading. Leave me alone.
There's no way out that way.
And yes, I don't like the lockpicking game. So I don't play it.
This way. Let us stick together down here. Come on, hurry up.
Where in oblivion are we supposed to go?
Just give me a minute. Put the door out. This way. This way. This way. Let's see where this goes.
Oh, time to get warm.
Follow me.
Doesn't go. I guess we'd better try this way. There's a way out through here. Hold up. There's a bear just ahead. See her? I'd rather not tangle with her right now. You might be able to see your mind. Just take it nice and slow. Watch where you step. Or if you're feeling lucky, you can take this bow. Might take you by surprise. Go ahead. I'll follow your lead and watch your back. Snake inside, This looks like the way out. I was starting to wonder if we'd ever make it.
Clicking on an empty water skin or using the drink refill hotkey near the bases of water fills will allow you to drink.
Wait. Looks like he's gone for good this time. But I don't think we should stick around to see if he comes back.
Close
Closest town from here is Riverwood. My uncle's the blacksmith there. I'm sure he'd help you out. It's probably best if we split up. Good luck. I wouldn't have made it without your help today. Closest town from here is Riverwood. My uncle's the blacksmith there. I'm sure he'd help you out. It's probably best if we split up. Good luck. I wouldn't have made it without your help today. Listen, you should go to Solitude and join up. So did I. If the damn Stormcloak somehow found one, or woke it up, the war might be about to take an ugly turn. Hard to believe it was just a coincidence that the first dragon anyone's seen for centuries attacks just as Ulfric was about to be executed. Or you didn't know? That was Ulfric's Stormcloak and his top lieutenants. Right, the leader of the Stormcloaks. They claim to be fighting for Skyrim's freedom, but the war is really all about Ulfric wanting to be High King of Skyrim. You haven't heard of the civil war in Skyrim? I guess down in Cyrodiil, people have other things to worry about. It's pretty simple. Ulfric founded the Stormcloaks years ago, as a sort of private army to advance his ambitions. He's always used the ban on the worship of Talos to stir people up against the Empire. He never succeeded in getting much support, so a few months ago he murdered the High King. That got the Empire's attention. I guess that wasn't such a big deal elsewhere in the Empire, but here it's caused a lot of resentment. Native son and all that. Even I'll admit it hasn't been the Empire's finest hour. But it wasn't like the Emperor had any choice, did he? If he hadn't signed the peace treaty with the Thalmor, they would have destroyed the Empire. Then where would Skyrim be? That's the part that Ulfric's supporters always conveniently forget about. Unless the Empire stands together, the Thalmor will destroy us all. A masterstroke by General Tullius. He's only been in charge here for a few months, but he's turned things around for the Empire. We've been trying to catch Ulfric since the war started, but he always seemed to slip through our fingers, like he knew we were coming. This time, the general turned the tables on him. Ulfric rode right into our ambush with only a few bodyguards. He surrendered pretty meekly too. So much for his death or glory reputation. I thought we were taking Ulfric back to Cyrodiil, but I guess the general changed his mind. You know the rest. Of course. I know today wasn't the best introduction to the Legion, but I hope you'll give us another chance. The Legion could really use someone like you, especially now. And if the rebels have themselves a dragon, General Tullius is the only one who can stop them. No, not yet. After all, a dragon, something out of old tales and legends. No one could have expected that. But you can bet he'll be trying to figure it out. This could shift the whole balance of the war. If you want to help stop that dragon, your best bet is to go to Solitude and join up with the Legion. I hope so. The Legion is Skyrim's only hope right now. Come on, we better get moving.